talking about Barcelona.
What do you have to say about my team? Listen, first of all, before you make your point, Barca is a bigger club than Chelsea.
Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of the Scoreboard. Here, we'll be talking about sports and we'll be talking about sports betting. On sports, we'll be focusing on soccer and we'll be focusing on the NFL. Now, the most important part, sports betting. Sports betting, we'll be talking about how to be a profitable sports bettor. And of course, we're not just starting now, right?
Yeah, so initially we had an IG page called Sports Aces.
Yep.
But now we run it to the Score Vault. And why the name is Score Vault, I think it's because we think we have the vault to unlocking a lot of good picks and scoring predictions for games. So for me, I'm Brandon. I'm a big Barcelona fan, as you can see. And as for the NFL, my team is the Philadelphia Eagles. So at this point in time, I'm a huge, big fan of Barcelona and the Eagles. What about you, Cedric?
Yeah, I'm a huge Chelsea fan, extremely big Chelsea fan, obviously.
Yeah, right.
And of course, I love the Ravens. So moving forward in this episode, I think it's going to be an interesting episode. It's going to be an interesting journey and some things to look out for. I think the first thing we're going to talk about how to be a profitable sports bettor, right? Because, we've been doing that for a while, and I can tell you we're really, really profitable. Second thing, we're talking about some of our betting rules. I think to do anything in this life, to be honest, you're going to have rules.
Yeah, very, very important.
Before you follow. I think that's very, very important. And then we're going to talk about things like our projects which we have in plan, like how to convert $100 to $10,000 in just 7 game days.
The ladder challenge. It's called the ladder challenge.
It's called the ladder challenge. Very interesting one. So, we're going to talk about that deep down here. So, you got to stay for it. You got to stay for it. And then also, along the line, we'll talk about things like our best bets for the weekend. So, I think these are some of the things that we'll be bringing to you this episode. And now, the most important thing, why do we start this podcast?
Yeah, so I think we're starting this podcast is because we think we know what we're doing. We know we've been betting for a long time. Every weekend we watch games. We understand the patterns. We know what teams are game planning.
Yeah.
And we all know that they have the same goal, to win games and to win the league. We have a good understanding of how their formations are. And we think, after all this long time of betting, we could share our knowledge with you guys. And as I said, we have an IG page that we used to have before, but it's now called the Score Vault. We've been posting bets on there. We've won multiple bets, and we think, it's time for us to leave the group chat and go out to the world where we can make our bets and we can share the bets everywhere. Obviously, we're not going to win everything. We're going to lose some, but the most important thing is to win more than you lose. So we think, with this podcast, we can share a lot of information about the soccer and the NFL so that, you guys can join us along this journey. I think most people are usually specialized. We have guys either talking about the NFL, or you have guys talking about soccer, but we have experience in both because, we watch both sports all the time. So it's going to be interesting. And we hope you guys, till along, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Follow us every week. We're going to be posting videos every week to talk about our best bets, our parlays, and what we think about the big teams that are performing so far, across both sports.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive straight into this past weekend, Cedric. Let's talk about the Premier League. What happened? Let me tell you guys something. This summer, when Chelsea won the Club World Cup, this guy has been everyone on Instagram posting Chelsea every single day. And I told him on Saturday that you guys are going to draw the game against Palace. So tell me what happened.
To be very honest, Maresca is a good coach, but sometimes he acts... I can't really blame him sometimes, but Chelsea is a very funny team, right? They made me so happy. They made me so happy when we won the Club World Cup, the Conference League. But the match against Palace was just so happy. To be honest, I don't want to say it, but it was kind of boring. It was kind of boring. Passing the ball to the side a lot, And I couldn't even get to the group chat. It was so terrible. I couldn't get to the group chat.
Yeah, you were silent.
Yeah, it was that bad, and we drew the game.
Yeah.
But obviously we drew the game, but my parlay cashed, so I'm happy about that. So, so when you're doing a couple of things, you should be happy about one or two things. So, yeah, that was good. This weekend was definitely interesting. It's the first game week of the new season, so it was definitely very, very interesting. So, yeah. And talking about that, we have some key things. What are some 5 key things for the weekend or 5 key things for the season, right? So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, which, I mean, we have been seeing online. Like, I mean, what do you think is going to be the best signing for the season so far? Let's talk about Premier League right now. What do you think is the best signing for the season?
I mean, there's been so many signings,
Yeah.
And for me personally, I think the Premier League is going to be a lot more competitive this season.
Yeah.
I think Man City is getting better.
Yeah.
We all know that Rodri was a big part of the team and now he's injured. But I think Tijani Reinders was a huge signing. He made a big impact on the first game. He gave a goal and assist, and I think he set up Haaland's first goal. So I think Tijani Reinders is a very big addition to Man City. Obviously, you have Liverpool. They are the favorites to win the league right now. They've got Frimpong. They've got Florian Wirtz from Leverkusen, and they have a very, very deep core team.
Yeah.
And obviously, you have Arsenal. They've been second for a few years right now. And I think they have a chance to win the league this year. So there's going to be multiple teams, including Chelsea. I'm not going to count you guys out, but I'll start counting you guys out very soon when you guys draw a lot of games, as you guys have started, and you'll see even this Friday against West Ham. But yeah, I do think, it's going to be so competitive with the signings, and I'm looking forward to it, to be honest.
So yeah, best signing?
My best signing so far, I'm going to go with Tijani Reinders of Man City. I just think he's getting comfortable with Pep's system.
Yeah.
And he's really contributing on his very first game of the Premier League season. And I think it's only going to go from there. What about you?
I think, to be very honest, I'm looking at the season. It's looking very, very, very interesting. I think the best signings, obviously, it's going to be Joao Pedro. It's
Chelsea,
going to be Joao Pedro.
of course.
He's got a banger in the Club World Cup too, for that matter. So it's definitely going to be Joao Pedro. I can tell you from the get-go. So that's clean.
So what did he do on Saturday?
I mean, it was a little bit difficult because we couldn't get through Crystal Palace, and I think they made things a little difficult for us, But it's the first game of the season. Like, we didn't get any preseason. You can't blame us for that, man. Like, come on, like, bro, So yeah, I think that's it for that. And second one, who is going to be the flop of the season for you?
This could be an overreaction, just because it was his first game.
Yeah.
But I think Victor Gyökeres is gonna.
The hairstylist.
He's gonna take a long time to get acclimated to the Premier League. Just because of the intensity, it's not easy to leave Portugal.
Yeah.
And then have an immediate impact in the Premier League in a team like Arsenal. And I do think he has to adjust his style of play in order to contribute to the offense. I think the last game against United, he had less than how many touches? He had very few touches in the entire game.
Yeah.
And even his few chances, he wasn't able to actually keep the ball or make passes in order to keep possession and maybe try to get some more goals. So I think it's not a flop necessarily, but he's going to take some time to, acclimate himself to the game. Wirtz, I like Frimpong, even though, they have to still get, physical and be in shape to actually get themselves comfortable with the back and forth style of the Premier League. But for me right now, from week one, what I saw, I think Victor had the least performance, and I think he has to, take his time to get, up to speed on how Arsenal plays and how the Premier League overall is being played. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I think for me, the flop of the season so far, and I've been telling people a lot, I've been telling Brandon here, I've been telling friends in the group chat, it's going to be Jeremy Frimpong.
Oh.
I feel like he's so light. He needs to go to the gym. The whole game, I think he was fighting on the corner flag or at the side trying to protect the ball. He was just like this, trying to protect the ball.
Yeah.
It was all crazy. He was being bullied.
Oh, yeah.
And not even by a big player, probably by David Brooks. Right, no disrespect to David Brooks, but there are powerful wingers out here in the Premier League. Imagine going against Anthony Gordon, there are powerful wingers that we have here. So I feel like Jeremy Frimpong, I think he's not up to par, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think he's not up to par. He's very, very weak. So I feel like he's going to lose a lot of balls one-on-one, And then also, since he's trying to overlap and assist Salah a lot, I think there's going to be space. There's going to be space behind him, and I feel like it's gonna be bad for him, to be honest. It's gonna be bad for him. So I feel like Jeremy Frimpong. In fact, I feel like he's not even gonna play almost the whole season just because I feel like Conor Bradley's gonna replace him.
At right back?
Yeah, Conor Bradley's gonna replace him. So I feel like right now they don't wanna, take him out just because they spend so much money on him.
Yeah.
In the long run, I feel definitely Conor Bradley is gonna take that place. So yeah.
Wow.
Last match they played Endo there, so it's gonna be an interesting thing to look at.
Yeah, that's actually a very bold take. I mean, obviously he got bodied a lot in that first game against Palace. I do like him though. I like how he can contribute to the offense. He's got a lot of speed. So maybe the speed can actually compensate for his lack of fitness at this moment in time. Mm-hmm. But maybe by December, he's going to go to the gym and, get fit to be able to play that position. But I think, it's all a matter of time. When you play at Anfield, there's that demand to actually give it your all. And I think he might have been nervous or whatever. But I understand you don't like Liverpool at all. Just because
that guy is just weak. He's just weak.
Tell that to Bizzo.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's really going to be interesting to see all these new signings. I think they have the chance to make a huge impact in their respective teams. Just, like I said, how competitive the Premier League is going to be. So for me, I think that's a good one. So going to the next question, who do you think is going to win the Premier League Golden Boot?
I think that one's an interesting one. Last year we had Salah.
Yeah.
We had Mohamed Salah. And I mean, don't get me wrong though. I mean, when that guy came to the Premier League, I told Bizzo, I was like, bro, like this guy, he's going to say one season wonder.
Yeah.
And he's definitely been proving us wrong continuously. So last season was Salah. But with the addition of Hugo Ekitike and Florian Wirtz, I feel like the ball is going to flow in the middle a lot,
Yeah.
So I feel like Salah might get good contribution, but I feel like he's not gonna do that. I think he's gonna go back to Erling Haaland.
Yeah, that's actually a good one.
Yeah, I think with the addition of Tijani Reinders, like you said, Ryan Cherokee, I mean Jeremy Doku playing now continuously, I feel like it's gonna go back to Erling Haaland, to be honest.
Yeah, boy.
I don't think they're gonna win the league, by the way, but I feel like when it comes to the Golden Boot, I think Erling Haaland is going to win it just because of his presence in the box.
Yeah.
The whole game, I mean, before he scored the goal, he had like 3 touches or something, so he just won this around, but he knows how to score. So I think it's going to go back to Erling Haaland.
Yeah. For me, I also think Haaland is going to win the Golden Boot just because, for one, he's a player that can play most of every game, so he could play 90 minutes for a huge part of the season. Right? He's not doing a lot. He's the penalty taker, even though Salah is also the penalty taker. But I think with the supporting cast that he has, there's a lot of chances for him to score many goals. You've got Foden, you've got the wingers, you've got Ryan, you've got Reinders right now.
Yeah,
I think City is built to support Haaland again to go for another run. And for Salah, I think Liverpool is getting very, very balanced right now, and they have hungry guys like Hugo who want to make a name for themselves. And, you also have guys on the left side like Cody Gakpo, who is also a good goal scorer. Yeah. So I think Salah might take a step back.
Yeah.
But he's definitely going to contribute a lot of goals to Liverpool. But I just think Haaland is going to bag a lot of goals this season,
Yeah.
So yeah. Leaving the Premier League, let's talk about my Spain. La Liga.
Yeah.
From the first week, what have you noticed so far? I mean, Real Madrid had a game today afternoon, and then over the weekend we destroyed Mallorca by beating them 3-0.
Yeah.
But with this Madrid team, what do you think is the biggest difference from last year?
I think the new coach, like Xabi Alonso, to be honest, a lot of things have changed, right? Because I think he focuses on possession football. Like he's trying to keep the spaces tight. Like if you watch what Pep says. Pep says, okay, he likes short passes so that give here. It's easier to control short pass. And if you lose the ball, for example, the space to track or to get to the opponent is quite shorter, Like if you lose a long pass, it's difficult to, break to attack the opponent, So I feel like that's what Xabi Alonso is trying to bring in there. A lot of possession-based football, But I feel like they still need a centerpiece, right? Because playing in Leverkusen, they had Victor Boniface and they had Patrick Schick. So with the balls overlapping from Jeremy Frimpong, how they call this guy, the left back
Grimaldo, yeah,
excellent player, giving all those wonderful crosses. I feel like they had a centerpiece, right? But Real Madrid, I think it's kind of boring, to be honest.
Yeah,
passing from left to right, I think it's so slow.
Yeah,
they need someone who can take control of that midfield, to be honest, and say, hey, give me the ball, I'm going to play fast here. Give me the ball, I'm going to play fast here. Right now in the midfield, everybody's just like, oh, I'm expecting to do something. I'm expecting you. So it's kind of very boring, very slow. So to be honest, I think it's going to be difficult for Real Madrid.
Yeah,
I like Real Madrid, to be honest. I hate Barcelona. And when you hate Barcelona, you kind of like Real Madrid a little bit because that's the only competition they have, to be honest. So yeah, Madrid is a little bit slow. It's a little bit boring to watch their games. They pass left to right. Vinicius is dribbling along the line, but there's no one in the box, so it's kind of boring. Today was all personal action from Kylian Mbappe and getting the penalty. But talking about Barcelona.
What do you have to say about my team? Listen, first of all, before you make your point, Barca is a bigger club than Chelsea. So go ahead, you were saying?
I mean, if you check the records, by the way, if you look at our head-to-head, you see that it's very extremely close. I mean, we've had the worst games in football. Like,
what head-to-head?
Barcelona vs Chelsea, I think it's almost like one game 0 friends at the Delta. But wait, we've had the worst game possible in football, 2009. The worst possible game, Barcelona vs Chelsea. What referee ever in football? That was pure cheating. So, like, you guys have very terrible history with us, so I'm not there for that.
Guys, I have a question to ask Cedric.
I'm not there for that.
Cedric, before we go into the sports betting piece of the segment, I have one question to ask you.
Yeah.
Between Barcelona and Chelsea, which club is the bigger club?
It's Chelsea. It's Chelsea.
All right.
We're talking about present here.
You like Chelsea, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I understand you're going to support your team.
Yeah.
You understand? Let's speed facts right now.
Okay.
How many Champions League does Chelsea have?
We have 2 in the past.
Oh, hold on.
Okay.
How many Champions League do you guys have?
2.
2.
Yes.
All right. Do we have more than you guys or no?
Yes.
Okay. So listen, we are more than Chelsea in every aspect of the game. In every definition of what a bigger club is, we are bigger than Chelsea. It's very simple.
We're world champions, and then we're going to move on to
Oh, you're world champions.
We're world champions.
Oh, I have one more question.
We're world champions.
How many Club World Cup does Chelsea have?
We're world champions. We're world champions.
Oh my gosh. Okay, world champions. But now let's get into betting though. Let's get into betting.
Yeah, I think that's the most interesting piece which everybody wanted to hear so far.
Yeah. So I actually read a statistic, right? That the betting industry in America is up to $500 billion or maybe more.
Wow.
So, and I think that's because, with the NFL and with every sport, with the invention of, with the advent of multiple sports books right now, I think you have over 8 sports books in America, like a lot of betting books.
Yeah, I think.
And they do a lot of advertisements. Yeah, even more. A lot of advertisements across the entire internet, and they tell, hey, if you guys are going to deposit the $10, you could get like $200 bonus. So many people get in there and they try to bet, but that's a huge industry, So in the end, why do people bet? Like, why do you bet though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the first thing is that getting into betting, you feel like it's like a quick, legal way to make money. That's
true.
Obviously, because there are other quick ways to win money. Don't get me wrong. I didn't say this, but there are other quick ways to get money. But I think it looks like a quick, legal way to make money. That's the difference here.
Yeah.
So most people get into betting because they want to flip $10 into $100,000. They want to flip $10 into $250,000. And that's exactly what those people use to scam us, right?
Yeah.
They have social media channels where they'll post, this guy just bet $10 to win $250,000. It happens, don't get me wrong, it happens, but 1 million people bet $50 or $10 and then one person will win. They have made about 50 million from you guys already, but they have lost like $250,000 to the person, the one person. So in the end, it's a huge profit for them.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. So
and that's why there are so many of them.
That's why there's so many of them. In the Premier League, we have more than 6 clubs, all sponsored by sports betting companies. So it's absolutely ridiculous, And I mean, talking about that, why do you think that parents have like a negative, or people have like a negative thing towards sports betting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, it's because of the large scale of people who abuse sports betting. Many people go into sports betting. I mean, the people who abuse betting, they bet their mortgages.
Oh yeah.
They bet their savings.
Yeah.
So they gamble irresponsibly. That's what it calls gamble. We bet it right here, but there are people who actually gamble.
Gambling.
So there's a difference. There's a difference between betting and gambling.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
So many people actually gamble. They take their entire savings and they bet on the team.
Yeah.
That's very bad. You can't do that.
Yeah.
Sports betting for me was meant to be entertainment.
Yeah.
But now you have many people who have the right information.
Yeah.
And then they try to win from that. But in the end, other people see it as a chance to try to get rich overnight. And because of that, they try to bet their mortgages and a lot of money. And because of that, whenever they lose that amount of money, the news goes viral. And that's what we hear everywhere. That this guy has lost money betting TSA back home, or you've had someone lose, a lot of money trying to bet on the slot machines, like, so it's not about sports betting, but other forms of gambling, like in the casinos and stuff like that. You can hear someone losing. I heard a lady lost like $4 million.
Exactly.
At the sports casino, like just hitting the slots machine.
And it's terrible, man. Like, absolutely
it's very terrible. So for me, I think it's just the abuse, and then other people like the rush. When you place a bet, the rush and the desire to win gives that dopamine, that high, and you just want to do it all the time, and that is very, very common, so that's what I think, is the cause of the negative impact that, betting or gambling has all over the world, Do you have a different opinion?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, I myself, I've been like a victim of that, because when I began sports betting, I obviously, my first bet, I won my first bet. It was very interesting. And from then, it's been continuous. And by the time I got into university, for example, it's been bad, it's been bad. There are days where, I think, it's been bad. Like,
did you bet your school fees?
Oh yeah. School fees went away, like, mortgage and everything, like rent, house rent, put all of that on the bed, and you're like, this team's gonna win. I put all of that on the bed. I was like, yeah. And when the team loses, like, you can't sleep, you can't think. It's so bad, man. Trust me. Like, so obviously I went through all of that, and then luckily I decided to stop betting. And then after a while, I sat down, and then I took some time, looked at sports betting again, and then tried to look at it from a different angle. I tried to look at it from a different angle, and then I did so much more studying, and I decided to treat it not like just leisure, because it's good to look at sports betting like leisure when you are, let me say, putting $10 and then you don't really mind that kind of thing, you're not touching what money you have. But I felt like with the amount of knowledge I have on sports, right? Because I'm an aggressive person when it comes to watching sports. That's football in particular.
Yeah.
I'm an aggressive person when it comes to watching sports. And like, you have all the stats. And this is something like, it's like you saying that, hey, had I known, if 2014, if I go back to 2014, I'll be the first person to buy Bitcoin. If I knew about Nvidia, or I knew about this particular stock, I would have bought this. It's the same thing with sports betting. I feel like right now you need to treat sports betting as if you're treating stock market, So I don't think anybody goes to Wall Street and decides to just go and buy a stock because they feel like they want to buy a stock.
Yeah, that's true.
I think you need to do some real studies on that. So I think that's exactly what needs to happen with sports betting. You need to sit down, take your time, put in the work. You need to put in the work if you want to be a profitable sports bettor. You need to put in the work. But yeah, we're going to give you a couple of rules down here, but you need to put in the work.
Oh yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
There's a lot that comes with betting.
Yeah.
Not just because you're risking your money, you don't want to just lose your money every single time you bet.
Yeah.
You want to have a good plan of trying to win, Sports betting is all about entertainment, and while you're entertaining yourself, it's also a plus if you can win some money from that entertainment.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, I'm betting just because, just like you, I think I have enough information and understanding of both sports where I can make a prediction and I can win some money, and I also feel like I can lose $10 on a bet and it's not going to be a big deal for me.
Yeah.
Like on Friday, was on Wednesday last week, I told you that your team was going to draw against Crystal Palace.
Yes.
Now, if I had put some money on it, I would have definitely multiplied that money by 3.
Yeah.
So I just think, by watching the games for a long time, we have identified all those patterns and we think we can make some money from it. Obviously, like I said, you can't win everything, but ensuring that you win most of your bets, that means you're going to be profitable over time, So talking about, our betting goals and, why we've been betting for a long time, what is your number one goal this upcoming season when it comes to betting?
Yeah, so when it comes to betting, I think my number one goal here, obviously, profit. That's normally the first thing, right? We always have to look at profit. We have to look at profit as the number one goal for sports betting. So, and the most important thing for me is that when I'm looking at profit, I'm also looking at making sure that sports betting does not negatively impact your life.
Yeah.
Because you see crazy things, right? You see crazy reels coming out where you can know this guy is in sports betting when he goes to the restaurant, he's eating, and he's like...
He's not there.
He's not there. So the main thing is that even though you're sports betting, you don't want that to negatively impact your life. Obviously. I mean, we all have jobs that disturb us once in a while, but you don't want that kind of thing to negatively impact your life and impact your relationship with your family members. So
yeah, that's true.
That's very important. But my goal this season is that I want to be a profitable sports bettor. And like we said, we would like to share exactly what we've been doing so far to the public, let you guys see it and see exactly what we're doing and how to become profitable sports bettor. So yeah, that's it. So, I mean, what about you? What do you think will be our main goal this season?
Yeah. So the same as you, my goal is to actually be a profitable sports bettor.
Yeah.
And even in the group chat, we have a slogan.
Yeah,
it's called "Living the Hood."
Yeah, living the
hood. So we think we're in the hood. It's gonna be a tough journey. We tried to leave the hood last year, we didn't succeed because of a few bottlenecks.
Yeah,
but we still became profitable. We won multiple bets. But this year, we think is the year that we're gonna leave the hood.
Yeah.
With the NFL and soccer coming up, we think this is the year that we actually gather all the facts from last year, and then we try to implement them. So for me, our gambling goal is to leave the hood, to make sure that, or to even try, that as we are profiting from our bets, we also have multiple attempts of trying to leave the hood, and we're going to leave the hood in batches from winning 10x to 30x parlays to 90x parlays like we did last year. Not only once, but multiple times. Yeah. So I think for me, that's one of the goals. And then also, you did mention that we're going to be having projects like the Ladder Challenge.
Yeah.
Guys, the Ladder Challenge is very, very exciting, but it's a huge challenge and it's also very risky. But once it succeeds once,
that's it.
That is huge.
That's it.
You could convert $100 to 10,000, or you could convert $10 to 1,000.
Yeah.
Imagine converting $10 to $1,000 in like less than 7 weeks. That's a lot.
Yeah, 7 game days.
7 game days, exactly. 7 bets. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a huge goal. It's not going to be easy, but if you're having your bets where you're profitable, and then you could wager some profit on it on the ladder, then that's not actually a loss, but that's you working on part of the project. So for me, that's one of the goals, to ensure that we achieve a few of those projects, from the Ladder Challenge to 20-leg parlays, and, consistently winning on your best bets, So that's what I think. But then how do we achieve all this? It's all about betting rules. Like you have to have rules that you follow.
Yeah.
Because with sports betting, there's a lot of emotions involved. There's that dopamine involved. There's the joy from winning a bet. When you win the bets, you think you're at the top of the world.
Oh yeah.
Like you're him. And then you wanna go bet again, and then you lose.
Yeah.
So we have rules that we follow to ensure that we stay on track. We don't just win some money and then spiral out of control.
Yeah.
So talking about our betting rules that we are at least going to try to stick to this year. Last year we started talking about betting rules towards the end of the season, and things were a little bit inconsistent. But this year, it's a big requirement for us that we have to stick to the betting rules.
Yeah.
We have a list of betting rules. For me, one of my betting rules is that I'm not going to repeat a bet.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing a parlay, because over a weekend we could place like 3, 4, 5 parlays.
Yeah.
One of my rules is that I'm not going to repeat a bet. So I'm not going to take Barcelona to win and put it across every slip I have.
Yeah.
Because trust me, guys, if Barcelona doesn't win, it's going to be a nightmare.
All tears.
Do you know how it feels to actually open the sports book and then you try to refresh and everything disappears?
No open bets. No open bets. Yeah.
That's pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I'm not going to be repeating any pick. It's just one at a time. What about you?
Yeah, I think I think the first one, and which is, I think my most important role is you mustn't bet.
Yeah.
That's the first rule.
That's a good one.
And I think the reason is because when you get up in the morning, right, on a Saturday morning and everything, like before you see the match sleep. It's the same thing like stocks, right? Let me say if you open the portfolio and see a couple of stocks, and no one looks promising to you. You don't take 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 and buy a stock just because you feel as to buy a stock. If nothing looks good for you, you don't buy any.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing like sports betting. If you look at the slate for the weekend and then nothing looks like what you ideally bet on or what you have researched on, you mustn't bet.
Yeah, that's true.
And you not betting is actually saving money. It's actually being profitable. You not betting is actually doing a lot. So that's my first rule, which I feel like is very, very important. You mustn't bet.
Yeah.
So that's the first rule.
Yeah. Absolutely. You shouldn't bet. Not you shouldn't bet, guys. You should bet. Please.
Yeah.
I mean, if you know what you're doing, for sure.
Yeah.
But for me, my next rule is to make sure you do your research. I think you said research.
Yeah.
Even if you're researching on stocks.
Yeah.
If you want to, place a bet on a sport.
Yeah.
Unless you don't care, unless you're betting on your team for fun.
Yeah.
That's fine. But if you're betting to try to win, you have to do your math. You have to do your research and look at the team, understand the players, understand the tactic.
Yeah.
Get a good feeling of the matchups.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can try to infer what you think is going to happen. I think if you take a look at all those information, you could understand a few patterns, and that's what we normally do. We look at two teams, we understand that, all right, when this team goes to play against this other team, they know that they can't win, or they're going to have a hard time winning.
Yeah.
Then they're going to probably park the balls and try to get a point from that game.
Yeah.
Now, that means the other team or the bigger team is going to have to possess the ball for longer, have many shots or corner kicks, and so on and so forth. From there, you can actually select your props that you think would make money if you bet on them.
Yeah.
So for me, I just have to make sure that I do a lot of research, and ensure that I have the right information before I place a bet. And I'm also very, very confident, in that statistic and even the odds as well. So for me, research is very important for me.
Oh yeah. I think that's extremely important, to be honest. You can't do anything without research, right?
Yeah.
Doing anything without research is just like going to the market blind, so it makes no sense.
Yeah.
I think my second betting rule, I think that is betting emotionally. So take for example, I'm a huge Chelsea fan, so because I like Chelsea, I'll go and bet on. Nah, I don't do that. Take for example Chelsea versus Crystal Palace. There's no way I'm gonna take my money, take my bankroll, and decide to go and bet on Chelsea.
Your mortgage.
Yeah. No. Decide that because I like Chelsea, I'm gonna take my money and place on Chelsea to win.
Yeah.
So if you feel like you're betting emotionally, then you're definitely doing it wrong. You're definitely doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah, that's true.
Because imagine losing your mortgage or your rent or whatsoever, and then your team is trashed. Your team is bullied. It's pain upon pain. It's pain upon pain. And along the line, we're going to be moving around to watch some of these games in the stadium. So imagine going to go and watch an Eagles game or maybe a Chelsea game in England, and then you lose the match and then you lose your money as well. Trust me, I don't think you drive home. I think it's going to be a very, very long ride. So I think it's very important to avoid betting emotionally. You want Manchester United to win the league, so you're saying, Liverpool will lose the game. Man still lose the game. Okay. Bet.
Good luck on that.
You know very well that they're not going to win the league, So you cannot just decide to bet because of that. So it doesn't make any sense to do that. So obviously avoid betting emotionally. That's my second rule. And then going to the third one for me, I think we have something we call the luck.
Yeah.
The luck. Most people understand what the luck is, and just in lay terms and everything, the luck is just simply like the best of the best.
The best of the
best.
Yeah.
So obviously it's just like saying that, hey, I have this stock. I feel like this stock is definitely going to do extremely well. Stop. Okay. I have this bet. I feel like this bet is going to do extremely well. So what do? That's going to be my best bet. Obviously, during the weekend, we have a couple of things, right? We have, let me say, 8 or 9 matches and stuff like that. So you can decide to draw, maybe 5 bets, one might be a single bet and everything, which is your best bet. Once you have that best bet and you're placing money on that, the money you place on your best bet, you should be able to cover the money for every other bet you place. So if you win just your best bet, right?
Yeah.
It covers all the expenses for that weekend. So I think that's one of my most important rules. And why do I say so? A couple of seasons ago, you have 5 bets, right? You'd be like, hey, I think Chelsea's going to have 20 shots. I think Barcelona's going to have 20 shots and stuff like that. It's your absolute best bet.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put that, then you go and see something else, like maybe something, a team to draw or something which you feel like is funny. You go and put this amount of money on it. At the end of the day, your best bet gets in, and the one you're joking about, it loses.
Yeah, that's true.
And at the end, you're making nothing. You're making nothing, So I feel like it makes a lot of sense that your best bet, the money there should cover everything. if you are betting 1,000 that weekend, make sure your best bet takes about 600-700, so that it covers everything else. So I think that's my third rule, which is very important.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. For me, one of my rules is that I'm going to be focusing on high value odds.
Yeah.
Have you ever placed a bet that is very, very low on the odds and then you still lose?
1.1.
1.1. Guys, do you know what is 1.1? It's like you're risking $100 to win $110. What is there? That's nothing.
Yeah.
So that the risk is not worth the reward, in my opinion. I think last year you were talking about betting on your team and betting on emotions.
Yeah.
Last year I had a bet. I had the Eagles to win. I had the Buffalo Bills to win. I had a few other teams to win.
Yeah.
The Eagles had 1.1 odds to win the game.
Yeah.
That was extremely low. But I was very confident because that's my team. And as you mentioned, betting on your team, you don't think straight.
Yeah.
The Eagles were up 21-6 at halftime.
Yeah.
And they ended up losing the game. So for me, I don't look at all those little odds because the bookmakers also have a way of tricking us. They just think because a big team is playing, it's an automatic win. And then they give us all those cheap odds.
Yeah.
And we think, all right, yeah. But for me, I don't look at those little odds. I look at, high value odds like spreads, corner spreads, match spreads. Like sometimes I'll take a plus spread. I'll take a double chance on the road team. So for me, I just like to focus on the high value odds because I think for me, that's one of the best ways of making long-term profits. You can't make a lot of profit by placing 1.1 odd, really. Like, that's not the best way.
Yeah.
So for me, my role is to focus on high value odds. If I like them, I take them. If I don't like it, and as you said, your first rule is don't bet it.
Yeah.
So for me, that's my second or third rule is to focus on the high value odds.
Yeah.
So do you have any other rules?
Yeah, I think the fourth goal, my fourth rule is very important here. I think it's the main goal is to make profit and not to build a house. The main goal is to make profit.
Yeah.
So if you feel like every day you're going to be betting $50 to win $500,000, okay, that's good and fine.
Oh, man.
Yeah, if you feel like it, and then at the same time, I'm probably betting $600 or $100 or $200. After about 6 months, for example, or 7 months, for example, I think it's good to go check your net in the sports books, right? Because I'm like a net column.
Yeah.
You're gonna see minus 10,000 already. If you keep on betting $50 today, $50 in the evening, $50 the next day, you're gonna see minus 10,000.
Yeah.
So I feel like the main goal here is to have a positive net. So I think that's very, very important. So my goal here is to make profit. So any amount of money which you're putting in or placing and everything, make sure you track it, right? Make sure you track it. Like right now, I have a notepad. I take down notes a lot.
Yeah, that's important.
Yeah, I take down notes a lot. So I try to have a positive net at the end of the month or so, because you can't win every game week. That's almost impossible. You can't win every game week. So I try to have like a positive net. So that's very, very important for me, and I think that's the main my main rule. So yeah.
No, that's a good one. For me, this is a personal rule. It doesn't apply to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's actually something I did many times last year. Even guys in the group chat, Bizo, I don't know if it was Bizo or Davido.
Yeah.
But one of them called me the Undertaker.
Yeah.
Just because I like to fit goals. I like to say there's not going to be up to 3 goals in the game. There's going to be under 3.5 goals in the game or under 2.5 goals in the game. And then before the 60th minute, there's like 4 goals or 5 goals.
Yeah.
And, that's something that I actually liked to bet on last year, but it actually dealt with me.
Yeah.
So for me, this year, I'm not taking any unders in my best bets. I don't think I'll take unders in my parlays as well.
Okay.
So no under bets for me. I'll probably single bet unders.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to have them in my best bets or in my long shot parlays for me personally. Yeah. And then my last rule, I'm just going to go to my last rule. It's also something that I think many people should follow is only bet what you can afford. Guys, please do not bet your mortgages on the sports pick. Do not bet your life savings on the sports pick.
No matter how you trust
it. Do not go to the bank and take a loan. Do not borrow money from a friend to place a bet. Yeah. Do not do that. Sports betting, like I said, is mainly for entertainment. But when you can have, when you have good information, you can use that good information to now profit.
Yeah.
But that doesn't warrant you to get into a very bad habit of, borrowing money or using your entire paycheck or your mortgage payment or your tuition.
Rents and all
or
that.
your rent.
It's
like this guy.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So for me, that's my rule. And I also advise that you do the same, just because, in the end, you can have the right information. You can have the perfect analysis, but it's not 100% guaranteed. The team can draw, they can lose the game. There's an upset.
Yeah.
So for me, I think only bet on what you can afford.
Yeah, I think to be honest, that's extremely true. And if you see yourself betting on table tennis in the middle of the night, if you see yourself betting on lawn tennis that you don't know the players playing, if you see yourself betting on cricket and things that you're not sure of, know that something is getting wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong for sure.
Don't think that because nobody knows you. Don't think that because you bet on the game, the outcome will favor you.
Yeah.
So if you don't do your research and start spiraling into betting just because you're trying to get back some money you lost, it's not going to end well.
Not at all. Yeah.
There are statistics that show that it's not going to end well. So if you haven't done your research, if you have lost money, calm down. Don't just get into the habit of feeling that you can win immediately.
Yeah.
You should always bet money and know that, hey, if I lose this money, I'm going to be fine. If I lose my bets this weekend, I'm going to be fine. So yeah, I think that's it about our betting rules. And right now we're going to, I think, some of our best bets for the weekend. These are extremely good. These are our extremely best, like our best picks that we have for the weekend. Obviously, like I said, we have been profitable sports bettors for a long time, and then we can tell you for sure that the beginning of the season is not always the best time because, like anything, you need to gather stats. Some teams have similar statistics from last year, but obviously teams have recruited people. People still have energy right now. Some people didn't have a good preseason. So right now it's a little bit shaky. So it's very important to consider how much you stake at the beginning of the season, just because it's a little bit funny and things are still shaky. But nevertheless, I mean, as good sports bettors, we always have good picks for you. So yeah, talking about good picks, what are some of your good picks?
This weekend is going to be interesting.
Yeah.
This is a risky bet that I'm going to be sweating. So guys, there are so many terms about betting that we're going to be explaining here on the podcast.
Yeah.
Words like sweating.
Yeah.
He didn't understand. He did explain what the lock is.
Yeah.
For me, sweating, like to sweat a bet, it's like you're sweating.
Yeah.
It's like, you're trembling.
You're trembling.
You actually tremble.
Yeah.
Because you might have the right information, but in the end, the players have to go in there and then they perform the way that you want in order for you to win the bet.
Yeah.
And the game can go in so many ways, and when you're watching the game, you want it to go your way. The anticipation is not really there unless it happens immediately the game starts. But I'm going to choose two games.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Man City versus Spurs.
Yeah. Very.
I understand Thomas Frank won the game against Burnley.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to have a hard time beating City.
Yeah.
I don't understand that City is very good offensively. They scored 4 goals against Wolves.
Yeah.
But I think Thomas Frank is going to pack the bus a little bit against Man City.
Yeah.
And City is going to use that chance to try to win Spurs because they've had a tough time defeating Spurs over the last few years.
Yeah.
So in that game, I'm going to take the race. I'm going to take Man City race to 7 corner kicks.
Yeah.
That's about 1.64.
Yeah.
And then Arsenal against Leeds.
Yeah.
Leeds actually beat Everton yesterday, 1-0, and they also very good performance.
Yeah.
But now they'll be traveling to the Emirates Stadium to play Arsenal.
Oh yeah.
All right, now Arsenal beat Manchester United under very tough circumstances. Their third game is a trip to Anfield.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a very, very difficult game.
Yeah.
So my understanding or my prediction is that Arsenal is going to do their very best to win this game before heading to Anfield because that's a tough game.
Yeah.
Now, look at Leeds. Leeds just beat Everton. So they don't want to win Arsenal. Yeah. For me, I think they want to just get a single point from that game, which means they're going to be ultra defensive. On the other hand, that's going to be Arsenal's first game at home. So I think Arsenal is going to be trying to score a lot of goals.
Yeah.
So I'm also going to take the race. So 2 teams, Man City race to 7 corners, Arsenal race to 7 corners. That's going to be 2.1 odd.
Okay.
That's my best bet for the weekend.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that's an extremely interesting one. Me, on the other hand, I think the most important thing here is that before you bet, we have always look at the lineups, right? Always look at the lineups because things change. So sometimes along the line, we're gonna post extra bets based on the lineups we see.
Yeah.
So 1 hour before the game, always check our channel, our Instagram channel, check our TikTok page.
The Score Vault at the Score Vault on Instagram.
Exactly. So always check out. You're gonna see bets 1 hour before the game and stuff like that. There's so many bets there. So many bets we've won. 10x, 20x parlays,
even 90x parlays.
90x parlays. 100. I mean, it's been crazy. You can check that. 100,000, 30,000, 20,000. It's been crazy. We have a lot of people there. So yeah, check that out. So for me, I think some of my best bets for the weekend. The first one is gonna be Bournemouth versus Wolves. So Bournemouth is a very attacking team.
Yeah.
Yes, they lost a couple of defenders, Milos Kerkez, they lost in Harrison, but they have a very attacking team. Antoine Semenyo, Evan Nielsen, they always kick a lot of shots. That's a market that many people, most people don't know about. That's the market that most people don't know about, the shots market. Like, it seems to kick this amount of shots. So I'll be looking at Bournemouth shots. I think Bournemouth will overpower Wolves and they'll have a lot of shots. Don't get me wrong, Wolves played very well against Man City, to be honest, but I think Bournemouth will get this one. The only thing is that Justin Kluivert had an injury. So
that's a big blow.
But I think Bournemouth will have a lot of shots. So yeah, I'm going to go with Bournemouth shots. That's the first one. And then the second one, I'm going to be looking at Marseille vs Paris. Marseille vs Paris is another one.
Ici c'est Paris.
Yeah, so now it's Paris, but this is Paris FC, not Paris FC.
Yeah.
So Paris FC is a team from League 2 and they just came to League 1. They have a lot of money, good. But Marseille lost their first game. They had lost their first game with the other team having a red card, And we just heard yesterday that Rabiot and another player, they were fighting. So after the game, so they are on the chopping block as well. But I feel like Marseille is going to overpower. I'm going to have a lot of shots. So Marseille vs Paris. Yeah. And then the last one I'm going to talk about is probably Man City. We're talking about Man City shots. I'm going to talk about Man City shots. I'm going to be taking Man City shots versus Tottenham Hotspur. And then also Bayern shots versus Red Bull Leipzig.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so those are 4 bets. Marseille, Man City,
and Bournemouth,
and then Bayern. So technically, we're going to post the bet as well just to show you how much that's going to give us and everything. But yeah, those are, I think, the best bets we have for the weekend.
Guys, on Friday, Chelsea plays against West Ham. Now, this guy thinks Chelsea is a bigger team than Barcelona.
Yeah.
Should I tell you what's going to happen?
Okay, let's hear.
Chelsea is not going to win that game.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to take West Ham to win or draw against Chelsea.
Okay.
I told you this over the summer. I said, your delusion is going to come to an end. And you saw the very first part of it in your home game against Crystal Palace. Now, I understand West Ham might not be as defensively good as the Palace.
Yeah.
But having lost to Sunderland on the road and then now they're back home, London clash, I think the game is also going to be a draw.
Yeah.
But West Ham might win.
Okay.
So I'm going to take West Ham to win or draw against Chelsea, against your team. I told you I'm going to be fading your team this year.
Okay.
And if you guys win, you pay me out against my parlay. If you lose, it satisfies me.
Okay.
So
okay.
That's gonna be fun, guys. That's just a prediction. I might bet on it, but I might not.
Yeah.
Do you have any long shots parlay though?
Yeah, I think that we'll have an extreme. I'm just gonna put it out there, but just wait. We're gonna send it out to you on the Instagram channel. So just hold on that, and you're gonna get an extreme good parlay coming up as well. So
yes,
yeah.
I also have one. I'm gonna try to do a 10x parlay.
Yeah.
So guys, follow us on Instagram, subscribe. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video and to this channel. Yeah. There's gonna be multiple parlays sent. Yeah. Once we win, we feel motivated. We're gonna be doing more research, and we're gonna be sending out the parlays. So guys, just try to be with us. And also, when we lose, comfort us.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a journey where we win together and we lose together. But the goal is to win more than we lose together. So, So that's definitely a big one.
So yes, guys, thank you very much. It's going to be an interesting journey. And thank you for coming here. Like I said, please like and subscribe and share this video as well. So I feel like if you're already betting, welcome to join us. give us your own takes, give us your interesting takes, and tell us what you think about all of this, And then also, if you're new to betting as well, you want to start somewhere fresh, try to follow the rules. Follow the rules. If you have new rules, you can put the rules in the chat as well. But thank you very much. We're going to be posting weekly, giving you updates about how this is going, and then also about our betting life. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure having you with us today, and have a nice day.
Yes. We'll see you guys next week for episode 2. And we're going to laugh at Chelsea. We're going to hopefully discuss our winning bets, and we're going to continue posting, and we're going to continue, on this amazing journey. We might start our ladder challenge maybe next week or the week after.
Yeah.
And then the NFL season is starting in about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's extremely exciting, guys. If you don't know about the NFL, it's actually time you start learning. It's going to be fun. We're going to be winning a lot. See, nothing is guaranteed.
Yeah.
But I can guarantee you we're going to win a lot on the NFL. So follow us, like, share, and subscribe, and we're going to see you guys next week. See ya.
Thank you. See you.